What's going on, everybody? Thanks for checking out the Among the Ashes podcast this week. We're your hosts, Wes, Chris, and Marcus. Before we jump into tonight's episode, we want to take just a minute and say thank you to each and every one of you guys that's been following along with us so far. It really does mean the world to us. We really do appreciate it. If you're checking us out on YouTube, if you don't mind, go ahead and hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, leave us a comment. We do want to hear from you guys and get some feedback on the show. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you can stay up to date on new episodes. When you're done there, if you don't mind, jump over to one of these platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, or YouTube Music, and give us a follow there. This helps the show to grow as well. That's true podcast platform. You don't get the video, but you do get the audio, and you can download an episode for whenever you don't have a chance to just sit and watch it on YouTube. Also, if you don't mind, share the show with your friends and help us to get out there to the masses and tune in every Thursday morning at 9 a.m. Central Time, with the occasional bonus episodes on Tuesdays, also at 9 a.m. Central Time. Lastly, if you would like to be a part of the show or you have a show idea, shoot us an email at amongtheashes@yahoo.com, or you can jump over to our DMs on Facebook, TikTok, or Instagram, all searchable by Among the Ashes Podcast. So now that all that's been said, let's get into tonight's episode. What's going on, everybody? Thanks for checking out the Among the Ashes podcast this week. We are your hosts, Marcus and Wes. How are you today, buddy?
Good, brother. I had the day off, so we're good.
Man, I know you had a day off. I went and laid around here on the couch by myself.
You called me yesterday, like, are you going to make it? And I was like, I'm already off.
Yeah, I wish I'd have known, man. I got up and like an old man, went to the doctor today, and I came back home and I got some shorts edited and loaded up and put out a bunch of fires for work, and then I slept for about an hour and a half. And then my wife got home and I realized, crap, I'm hungry. So I went and got one of those barbecue sandwiches that I would slap my mama and yours for. One, I ate two of them, guys. Let me straight up, I ate two of them. I'm a fatty, 222, heaviest I've ever been in my life. Doctor's like, I'm proud of you.
You're just healthy.
Yeah, big boned. That's one thing I'm not, for sure, not big boned.
Healthy.
Before we get into the show tonight, guys, we want to thank our unofficial sponsors, as usual. That would be Hometown Auto Sales in Jasper, Mr. JJ Hatter. If you guys are in the market for a new truck, car, SUV, Jeep, anything like that, give JJ a call. This is not a paid placement in any kind of way. JJ is just a good dude, and he has helped me out tremendously, and I greatly appreciate it. And I want to shout out Bolton Garage as well, because they stepped up and helped me out too. So again, not a paid product placement, but both of them are stand-up establishments, and I would say patronize there in Jasper, Alabama. So you can check the show notes. Their links are there, and you can get in touch with JJ at Hometown or Jonathan at Bolton if you need anything done as far as repairs on your car. And that being said, if you're watching us on YouTube, if you don't mind, go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you hadn't already. If you have, thank you very much. We really do appreciate it. Hit the like button, leave a comment, turn your notifications on so you're up to date when we release, typically every Thursday, 9 a.m., sometimes Tuesday if we get that bonus episode in. And then any podcast platform, any major podcast platform we're on, you can search it Among the Ashes Podcast, as well as Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. Go follow us there. If you would like to be a part of the show, you got a show idea, something you want us to talk about, hit us up. You can email us at amongtheashes@yahoo.com, or you can also DM us, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all searchable Among the Ashes Podcast.
You got that down pat.
I'm about to start letting you do it. I'm start passing, or Chris, if Chris could get here. So good news for Chris. Chris and Alicia are buying a house.
Sweet.
2 houses down.
Really?
He has no excuse anymore.
You're dang right.
Oh, you can walk here.
You are absolutely right. It's got to the point like we want to go kidnap him. Like, hey,
yeah.
you're coming.
Hey, come on, just be on the show. Come on, guy. We miss you. So, but yeah, I'm super stoked for them. I think they close sometimes mid-November. I may or may not should put this out here because I don't know who all knows, but all three people that listen know now. So
that's the Lord's blessing.
That's right, man. And they were really worried about it. So they came over last weekend and they were going to look at the house. So they came by and they were like, well, we'll go home and pray about it. I said, let me ask you something. I said, can you afford it? They said, yeah. I said, is it going to hinder your day-to-day finances or hinder your kids from extra things or the things that you're already doing? No. Is it going to do anything negative in your life? No. I said, then why does God not want you to have it? Yeah. I'm not saying you shouldn't pray and you shouldn't ask God about things, right? But I think we go home and we stress about things too much when God is saying, hey, as long as you're putting me in it and you're not doing anything dumb, I got you. And that's the thing. And they've been looking for 2 or 3 years now since they sold their other house, and they made some decisions probably they shouldn't have after they sold their other house. And they bought the little house and door. They're gonna, I think they're gonna end up giving it to Chris's dad or letting him live there, and they've remodeled it. But they learned is the process, and they became stewards. And in that process, they're working with the youth now. They've got 5th and 6th grade youth pastors there at High Point, and well, they're not youth pastors, but they are over that age group. And like since I've seen them kind of buckle down, I've seen God just open door after door. And I told him, I said, "What are you waiting on? Like if you know that you will be fine regardless, then God is with you. Yeah. He's always with you, right?" So they went home that night, and I told him, I said, "This is what I would do. I would lay down tonight, and I would pray and ask God individually, give me a number to offer." They were $1,000 apart in the number that they both felt like they should offer. So they went and offered, and they were lower than another offer, but they were there talking, and the Ring camera picked them up, and they were talking about how close it was to the church and how good it would be for the kids and things like that. And the people accepted their offer and said, "We think y'all need to have it." And I was like, man, that just goes to show you how God is always in what we're doing if we're putting him first in our lives, so it's pretty amazing. But anyway, I can ramble on and on about that. We need to get into tonight's episode, man. We got a pretty good banger, I think, tonight.
I think so.
If we can get him to go down the road, I want him to go down a road, man, but it's like, no, we need to stay on track. But I'm gonna let him introduce the show and all that. But you guys need to dive in and check him out. What do you need? Turn you up. You guys need to get in and listen to him, because listen, here's the thing, man. If you like the weird, and I'm not just talking weird. You guys know I like Bigfoot. I like aliens. I like all that stuff. And I feel like I'm fairly knowledgeable. No, I don't hold a candle to some of the stuff that this guy knows, man. And it's funny because, he's just right here in Pinson, right here in our backyard. And I've known who he is for a long time, and I've never put two and two together, but I'm a big listener to the confessionals and Tony Merkel. And I heard him on there, and I was like, sounds like Larry Ragland. And then Tony said who it was. And I was like, holy cow, is that the same Larry? So I got on and I found a picture of him, and I sent it to Greg, and I was like, "Hey, is this the guy in Pinson?" He was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Yep, that's who it is." So we've been trying to have him on the show for a better part of a year since we started. Yeah. When we started the show, it may have been more along those lines. We've kind of morphed and changed, but he is also pretty heavy into men's ministry as well. So maybe we get a little of the good all night long. Yeah. Right? Well,
pointers, directions. Good, the bad, the
ugly. Well, let's get into it. Brother Larry, are you there with us, man?
I'm here, man. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm honored.
Yeah, man, we're stoked. I'm glad we were able to make it happen. I know when we had talked to you originally, some stuff had been going on, I think with your mom or your mother's mom or something. And then,
well, both our parents passed away in the same year. One passed away in January and the other one in December.
Oh, wow.
And both of them passed away of Alzheimer's and dementia. Oh, man, it was very difficult year.
Yeah, I hate to hear that. I'm glad that we were able to finally put it together, and I believe in God's timing, right?
Yeah,
for sure. And I don't know if we were quite as polished then. Still not polished now.
No. You're pretty polished. Y'all pretty polished. Yeah, I give it to you.
I appreciate it. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself, Larry. Where are you from? What you do? How you do it?
Well, born and raised in the big city of Warrior, Alabama. My wife, born and raised in the big town of Trafford, Alabama.
Oh, look out now.
Yeah, come on. Population 700. But we've been married now for a little over 36 years. We've been in the ministry for 35 years. I've been pastoring the same church here in Birmingham area called Solid Rock Church for now 31 years. And so, we're pastors before anything else. And, right in the middle of the pandemic, we decided to do something insane. We lived in the same house for 20 years and loved our house. And then all of a sudden, my wife decided she just wanted to get on Google Maps and found some land about 8 miles down from us and wanted to build a new house. So we built a house in the middle of a pandemic. And it just about killed me, I'll be honest with you. And as I'm winding it down, we finally move in the house, and I sit on the back porch, and it's got like a little lake, like a glorified pond on it. And beautiful sunset. And I'm sitting there, my first grandbaby gets up on my knee, and I'm just like, wow, I'm finally going to slow down. This is it right here. And that's when the Holy Spirit just began to deal with me, and God told me about the whole download of the big picture. Said, nope, about to be busier than you ever been before in your life. The reason I got you here is because this is where you're going to focus. This is where you're going to write books. This is where you're going to hear what I need to speak to you. So that's when we launched the big picture, right in the middle of all of that. So that's how I got here. And God's got a sense of humor, because I thought I was slowing down, and God just sort of laughed at me and said, yeah, whatever.
Well, it's funny how we always have a little Jesus with us.
Yes, everybody needs a little Jesus. Everybody needs a little Jesus.
It's kind of the same story for us. We bought our new house right at the kind of end of the pandemic. My wife had just come out of cancer, and we looked at this house before and thought that when she was diagnosed, it's like, hey, we better hold up. And in that, I was running, and I say running. I wasn't running from God. I just was tired of ministry,
Sure.
In that, I sunk into a deep, dark desert place, and we looked at the house and was like, well, hey, we better wait. Some other people bought it, and then 2 years later, they put it up for sale, and it's like, well, I guess this is what God wants us to do, you know what I mean? And in that process, I feel like the Lord had told me to start a podcast, and of course, in my running and my stupidity, it was like, nah. Of course, I'm griping about not having a chance to do ministry, And,
right.
And finally, we started it, and it's kind of funny because about that same time, Marcus stepped into, after 20 years of serving Christ, stepped into men's ministry, and his calling of feeling like, hey, I'm a church goer, and I'm not trying to speak for you, but I play drums. God, is this all you want me to do? And God's like, nope, not yet. And it's just all kind of falling into place that way,
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
It's kind of weird, always kind of having you as a mentor and stuff, helping you for years through in youth ministry, but never taking anything like that on, and never feeling like the Lord was showing me a direction like that until like my son's he's been called to preach. He's been preaching, and it was that all that time was really like a gut check for me to like, hey, you got to step your game up too, And then all that time, the Lord just revealing, hey, we've got a big need right here, and Marcus, you're the man to do it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that humbling experience, just that the Lord would use me like that right there.
Yeah.
And just what was weird about it all to me was like me calling and trying to share that with you and get some direction and stuff from you, how excited you got, and just how almost confirming and it was like you wasn't, like the Lord wasn't done with you.
Right.
You know what I mean? He's helped you. Now you help him in his direction and his walk and his ministry.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
It's crazy how the Lord brought all that together.
A complete 180. And then little did I know that the show really would kind of take off from that as well, And so
it was crazy. Our first men's conference, you had me on the show talking about the men's conference, and it's taken off from there.
Which, speaking of, you guys are watching this on Thursday. The men's conference is Sunday, October 18th. So
cool.
Thursday, the following Sunday starts at 10 a.m.
Next Saturday, the 18th.
Or the 18th. I'm sorry, not Sunday. Yes. Saturday, the 18th starts at 10 a.m. So you guys are hearing this. Yeah. You guys will be hearing this on the 16th. So Saturday, 10 a.m. Door Church of God. We will also have information down below. You can find the address and all that stuff to go. So, but yeah, it's been a crazy year, man.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. Hey, men's ministry is the place to be right now. I mean, that's you guys know this, and the viewers and the listeners know this, that the biggest epidemic facing, in my opinion, culture is the lack of fathers, the lack of men understanding what it means to be a man.
Absolutely.
And I love iron. Iron sharpens iron. So does a man sharpen the countenance of his friend. And that's the name of our men's ministry, Iron Men. And it's a definite passion of mine. We've been doing men's ministry now of the 31 years, probably about 28 years we've been doing Iron Men related things. And because that's, you think about it, that's the men are mocked in Hollywood, the fathers are mocked in all the shows, everything, and we all know that. But a lot of churches, they do a lot of talking, but there's not really putting any action to it. So I'm thankful to hear that you guys are not just talking about the problem, you're changing the problem, discipling men, sharpening men, raising up men. And it's desperately needed, man. That's you know, and you know this. I don't know what both your stories are with your father, but you know, I don't know how far you want me to go into that, but you know, I had a major father issues, and that shaped who I was as a man and what I didn't know was a man. Because if you ain't got a father, you don't know what a father is.
Right.
And so that's an epidemic problem there. And that's.
I'm sorry, I'm going to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I would like you to talk on that briefly, just a second, because I saw a video the other day, and I guess it's you and your wife. I know it's your voice. I don't know if your wife's doing it with you, but of your testimony basically. And I want you to point people. You were preaching, but you played the video in the middle of it.
Yeah.
It would have been last week or week before
Sure.
you released it. But man, powerful. As far as my father goes, mine was not there. He left when I was 15 months old. My mom did marry a guy who we lived with for about 10 years. And it was very abusive. And it pushed me to church because we had a cattle farm and I had to work every day. And the only times I didn't have to work was Sundays and Wednesdays because I went to church. I didn't have a relationship with Jesus, but it formed, it formed.
Sure.
And, Marcus, his dad was there, but broken home, and it still makes that tough. And he can talk more about that than I can. I mean, I feel like Uncle Rick was a pretty good dad for the most part, but definitely probably would have been better had they been able to stay together in home. But you touched on something that's confirming for us. So we call our group Men of Valor. You touched on Hollywood making a mockery of men, and then all the TV shows, the man is always the butt of the joke, and we say that all the time, and a big thing for us is leading your home. You can't do anything if you're not leading your home, and getting back to the simple fact of, I feel this way, and I feel like I can speak for Marcus on this, that even though it is mine and my wife's family, it's my responsibility.
Sure.
That makes sense.
Absolutely.
And that is my goal pushing forward and teaching. It's funny, the older men that we have that you would think, they've been in church forever and they do the right things, but then they're almost kind of dumbfounded by, it's almost like they're starting over as a new Christian at that point when you see it from that side, And I've been living for Christ since, I got saved at 8, I guess. I committed at 18. I surrendered at 46. Weird process, but like 3 weeks ago, I held the first Bible study with my family, and I've called myself being in ministry for 20-something years. Just sit down. Hey, you're not going anywhere. Nobody's leaving. We're going to sit down for 30 minutes, and we're going to open the Bible, and we're going to read. You can bring your boyfriends, you can bring your girlfriends, you can bring your friend. I don't care, but nobody's going anywhere until this is done, from this time to this time, And I feel like that's something that's needed that we don't do enough of. Go ahead. What were you gonna say? No,
I'm just saying I agree totally. I mean, I'm proud of you for doing that, man.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, and it's never too late to start.
That's right.
The key. That's the key. And a lot of times men, when they get a little older, they'll label themselves as too old, to start over. Well, I don't care. If you got breath in your body, it's never too late to start over.
That's right.
All right. So you want me to go down the road and share a little bit of my testimony?
And your testimony,
Okay, so I shared this many times in my church, but up until just, I would say, 2018, I was not able to really share everything publicly, and because I had a lot of secrets that I went through in my childhood. But the bottom line is this: I was raised in a very abusive home. My father beat me. He physically abused me, injured me a few times. But more than anything, he injured me emotionally. He just destroyed me emotionally. And I was only living with him till I was 10, maybe 11 years old. But those 10 years, just literally shaped a third of my life or more because of the things that he said to me. And so my father was not only violent, he was the typical narcissist. He was a master manipulator. Definitely liar. And, most narcissists are, and he had mastered the ability to pretend to be something that he wasn't. And I was the typical home where we was in church. We'd go to church every Sunday, and My dad was singing on the stage. He had an amazing voice. Everybody in the church, including the pastor and everyone, absolutely loved him, and that, thought he was the greatest man of God they'd ever known. But it was all a fake and a fraud. And I'm not going to say that he did not have any kind of desire of loving God, but he was a very torn man. And most of the time before we ever even got out of the church parking lot, he was dog cussing me, my mother, my brother, and the preacher, everybody. So, we had the typical seeing one side there as a child, seeing another side at home. And so, this is the thing about men's ministry, and you've been doing it long enough to know this. And it's not just men, it's women as well. It's just humanity. When you are raised in an abusive situation, whether it be physical, and especially if it's emotional and mental, you will become what you hate. You will become that person. That's the bottom line. You will, because it is seed. It is seed that is sown. You will become what you hate the most. In fact, a lot of times people will make a judgment call. They'll say, they'll speak out of their mouth, I hate him. That's one thing in the world I don't want to be is him. And without a miracle, without God, you will end up going in that route. So I did. One of the stories that I tell in the book that I wrote about my life, it's called I See Greatness in You. But in that book, I tell the story about when I was about 10 years old, right before she finally left. This just give you a little microcosm of my childhood. One of the many times my mother had threatened to leave, and he always, the narcissist and a manipulator, will always talk that abusive wife into staying and guilt them into staying. And it always was the case. And this was going down that road that night. And but this night, my mother packed the car before he even knew we were going to do that. And he found out we were about to sneak out. And he just went into a tirade and left the room. He came back with a double-barrel 12-gauge shotgun and loaded it right in front of me. And I'm 10 years old. And he put both shells in there, pulled it back, pulled the levers back, and literally stuck the barrels in his mouth and grabbed my hand and put it on the double triggers. And with the barrels in his mouth and my hand on the trigger, he was screaming at me to pull the triggers and blow his brains out. And I was just screaming, I'm not going to do it, Dad. I love you. Why are you doing this? And he just said, he said, well, it's time for you to be a man. You might as well be a man, because if you get in that car with your mother and you leave me, then I'm going to do it myself. Either way, you should be a man and go ahead and do it yourself, because either way, you're going to have to live the rest of your life knowing you killed your father. So why not just go ahead and pull the trigger and be a man about it? That's the kind of manipulation I went through. And I went through things like that over and over and over again. My dad would just always threaten me. So it scarred me. And it ended up being that when we finally left around that time, we were hiding from him, and he found us. And when he found us, he came in the house with a revolver and did the same thing, put it up to his head in front of me, and said he was going to go to the train tracks, and he was going to find a place and kill himself, and it was my fault, and I was going to kill him. I killed my father and all this kind of stuff. So I was probably was 11 by then. And when he left, he screamed, slamming the door, saying, just remember what I said. You killed me. It's your fault. And I screamed out, I hate that man. I wish he wasn't my father. And when I did, my mother was just so caught up in the moment. She was just so tore up. She said, he's not your father. And I was like, what did you say? And I just fell to the floor, and she said, he's not your father. And that was at that point, I'm 10, maybe 11 years old. I find out he's not my father. There's a man out there that's my biological father. That she sat down for the next couple of hours and told me all about this unbelievable man that loved me, that wanted to be with me, that begged her to leave and go be with him so that he could raise me. And she wouldn't do it because she didn't want to be labeled an adulterer and all this kind of stuff. So she thought the best thing for me was just to stay with my named father. So all my life, and you can interrupt me anytime, but all my life from that point, and my mom told me that day, can you imagine you're 10 years old, you hate this man who you thought was your father. You find out he's not your father. You find out there's a superhero out there that's the greatest father in the world that loves you. And then your mom says, but you can't tell anyone. This is between me and you. I have no idea where he's at and have no idea how to get in touch with him. He's gone. This is our secret. You're going to have to live with this. Well, that was just even more devastating to me, because it's like, I'm 10 years old. I can't tell anyone. So other than my best friend, I had been best friends since I was 5 years old, I told no one. And so I took it all the way into high school, and when I led with "you'll become that person you hate the most," I wanted to say that because I became that. I was on the verge of becoming violent, but I wasn't as violent as him. But I was the master manipulator. I was full of myself. I was a narcissist, and I was a master manipulator and liar. And so I'd lied my way into convincing everybody in high school that I was very happy. I was a popular guy. I was a jock. I mean, it looked like I had it going on, but I was miserable. I was living a secret life and all this all through high school. And here's the crazy thing. It's also in my book. And if I didn't live it, I wouldn't believe it. You guys, can you imagine this? So from age 10 to age 17, for 7 years, I have this secret about this man that's out there. Nobody knows about it. Not my girlfriend, nobody, except my best friend. And I'm sitting in class. I don't know how old you are. This will date me, but I'm in typing class. Okay. I'm learning how to type. Okay. Okay. So I'm in typing class, and I'm just sitting there. I'm 17 years old jock, and I'm sitting there typing on this thing. And me and my friends just sort of hanging around the typewriter, just laughing and joking. And this girl that had left our school several years earlier, probably 4 or 5 years earlier, had come back. And she was friends with my girlfriend and all this. So they're all just standing around there. And somebody said something like, I don't even know what they said, but I laughed. And when I laughed, she looked at me and said, "That's weird." And I was like, "What?" She goes, "Nothing." So it just went on and on. And she just kept staring at me. And I'm like, what is your problem? Why do you keep looking at me like that? And literally she said, guys, she said, "Wow, you look just like somebody I know." And I was like, because you got to keep in mind, in my mind, I'm thinking when I graduated high school, my thing is, my mom told me I couldn't tell anybody, but when I'm a man, I'm my own man, I'm gonna get out of this house, I'm gonna hire a detective, I'm gonna find this man. I want to have a father. So I didn't tell anybody. She goes, it's just really weird. And so it went on for a couple of days. She would just say something about the way I would look. Until finally one day she said, "Honestly, you laugh like him, you turn your head like him, your voice sounds just like him, you look just like him." I said, "Well, big deal. Who is this person?" And she said, "My stepfather." And I'm like, "Okay, who's your stepfather?" And I'm just, at this point, I'm still clueless. And she says his first name, and I froze, because that was my biological father's first name. And I was like, "What did you say?" And she said his name. And I was like, "Okay, I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm not going to tell you why, but I need you to answer me. What is his last name?" She told me his last name. It was the last name of my biological father.
Wow.
And I said, "What is his birthday? Do you know?" She told me his birthday, and it was his birthday. I jumped up, 17-year-old. I just ran out of the room. I went straight to the bathroom. I threw up everywhere in the bathroom. I just got in my car and I left. I didn't check out. I didn't care. I just went home. When I got home, I told my mother what had happened. And she was like, "Larry, there's no way that's him. There's just no way. I have no idea where he's at." And she said, "Well, and I don't mind saying this now. Well, I don't want to say it because I don't want people to go there, try to find him. But it was not far from here where she said that they lived. It was like within an hour driving distance of our house. And my mother was just shocked. "What? He's living there, that close to us?" She had no idea. So back then in those days, you had to call the operator. So I called the operator, and I asked the operator, said the name.
You're in the circular motion.
Yeah, no, circular motion. Yeah. For all you youngins, not this or not this. The rotary dial. Okay.
Yeah, at
So
least it wasn't, hey, Martha, get me so-and-so.
exactly. So go on YouTube and search rotary dial phone,
Rotary
youngins,
dial phone.
and you'll see what I'm talking about. So I did the zero, and I told her, I said, I'm looking for this name in this city. She said, we got 3. So they gave me the 3 names, and the first one I called, this deep voice answered, and I just froze. I couldn't say anything. And literally to this day, I don't know if this girl had already told him or not, but this is what he said. This was the same day. This was like within hours of getting home from school. But he said, Larry, is that you?
Wow.
It's like a movie, man. I was like, I'm going to ask you one question. Are you my father? And he said, yes, I am, son. I've waited your whole life for this day. I love you. And I just hung up on him. And I just fell on the floor, just started bawling my eyes out. And my mom said, what are you going to do? I said, I don't know. She said, what, do you want to meet him? I said, of course. So 3 days later, I was with him. 3 days later, y'all, from laughing at a joke and somebody seeing that I look just like this man, that's how I found my father. And I'm walking around in this city. He's got his arm around me. He's taking me in businesses. He's showing me off as his son. It's unbelievable. He leaves his wife, starts dating my mother. And within a few months, he picks us up and says, I'm going to take you on a dream vacation. And we go on a dream vacation all over the United States of America. I'm traveling with my biological father that looks just like me. I'm looking into his face just like looking into a mirror, except he's like 6'4", and he's just gigantic of a man. And we get home from that trip. This is within 6 months of me finding him. I had smarted off to him one time on that trip. When we got back home, he said, come over here and help me unload this trailer. And we're unloading the trailer. And he looks at me and he goes, let me tell you something, boy. I got 2 girls. I've raised girls. I've never raised a boy. Now, I told you before, I love you, but I don't really like you. You're a punk. You're full of yourself. And I don't have time for punks. So I love you, but I don't think I like you. And I was begging, Dad, please forgive me. I called him Dad for the first time. And we went back and forth, had some words. He got in his car and he left. He left us. That was it. He never came back. I saw him one other time before he died. So you can imagine what that did to me, guys.
Sure.
Dropped twice. Not just dropped once, destroyed once, dropped and destroyed twice, all before I graduated high school. So my whole senior year, I'm angry at my biological father. I'm angry at my named father. And even at that point, I still couldn't really tell anybody because even the trip and all that was still secret that he was my father. And I can stop now or I can keep going. I tell this story so many times, but it's amazing.
Let's pause a minute. Your story is similar to mine. My dad, I never knew my dad. And when Facebook come along, I'm in my 20s, I get a message from a distant cousin and, hey, you Robert's son? And so, yeah, I am. And we're catching up, whatever. I don't know him. I didn't know my dad's side of the family. I knew one aunt and her kids. And beyond that, I'd met him a handful of times. As far as Snyder, that's my last name.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a Phillips. My granddaddy was a Phillips, and that's who I am,
Sure.
And my cousin said, he said, yeah, your dad was just a great man, and he's just really talking him up, And I'm like, well, what a great man, He left his kids and his wife, and he had substance abuse problems, his big alcoholic, cokehead, and him leaving is probably, short of him finding Christ and changing, him leaving is the best thing that could have happened to us. My mom, I never knew we were poor. I knew we weren't wealthy by any means, but she was the best dad I could have ever had. Right. But he was like, your dad was such a good dad, blah, 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 blah. And he saw me graduate and I was like, hang on. And I asked him, I said, how old are you? And he's about 10 years older than me. And, I started doing the math. And so I'm thinking, so he was alive this whole time?
Right.
He died when I was 16. if he saw you graduate, I was 8.
Yeah.
I said, well, where'd you go to school? Minor.
Mm.
You went to Minor High School. Yeah, he'd come up probably every other weekend and hang out with us. So he's no more than 20 minutes.
Yeah.
From where we lived.
Mm-mm-mm.
And nobody knew.
Yeah.
Well, then a whole bunch of other hurt set in because we
Sure.
had constantly asked my aunt, my mom would, do y'all know where he's at? No, we don't know. We don't know. We don't know. The first time I remember seeing my father was laying in a casket, other than pictures, and I wasn't hurt because, oh no, my dad died. I was hurt because my dad's been alive.
Yeah.
Not here, which, pissed me off even further, right?
Well, it ripped the scab off.
Yeah.
It ripped the scab off right now. Yeah.
My sister and I got we got stuck with the funeral bill. And my sister was 18, I was 16. We got a little check because he was military, and got a little check. So every bit of that little check that maybe we could have had for a couple of years, some sort of support from our father went to paying for his death, And this whole time, none of his family stepped up. None of them. I think maybe Aunt Faye pitched in a little, but it just, it burned me. And then, that's at 16. Well, at 18, I gave my life to Christ. But even before that, my stepfather, like I said, he didn't just full on beat me, but he'd knock me around. Yeah. I would have rather him beat me as to the way he talked to me.
Oh yeah.
You're useless. You're worthless. Yeah. He's trying to make me a man, right? But he's 20 something years older than my mom. And, we had nice things, and I get my mom staying. She loved him, but I get her staying because we had, we were taken care of, he made sure we had nice clothes and food to eat, but I worked. I was a slave. I was built-in slave. And, so I had all this anger and rage that even after I gave my life to Christ, it took, well, I'm 46 years old, and I said I surrendered at 46, right?
Well, see, the thing is even though Jesus forgives you and your spirit is born again, your image of who you are that was shaped in brokenness still has to be dealt with. The reality is there's a lot of bound Christians, and a lot of people don't know how to handle that. Now, I'm not talking about spiritually, eternally bound. When you're saved and you're born again, your name is written in the Lamb's Book of Life.
Right.
But I'm telling you, there are a lot of miserable, completely miserable Christians.
Oh yeah.
And bound Christians. So that's the power of men's ministry. And so, yeah, you were saved, but you were still dealing with what you had been shaped by because of what happened. And, that's what happened to me. I became, my senior year, I went full on, I'm going to cover this up. I'm going to make everybody think I'm the greatest thing in the world. And I just went full on manipulation. And what I ended up doing is, even though when I got out of high school, barely graduated high school, not because I was stupid. It's just, I didn't do my work. I was just all about me, having fun, all this, barely made it through. And I graduated, and then signed a football scholarship in Mississippi. Long story, but it got cut from the team, came back mad and bitter about that, broke up with my girlfriend. And then in the course of all of it, the scripture, train up a child in the way he should go, when he's old, he shall not depart from it. The seed that was in me from being raised in church was still there. And so I started going to this church in Trafford, and I was literally semi-dating this one girl. And we went on a church trip, and we were at a bowling alley, and I'm in my lane, and I'm bowling with my somewhat girlfriend at that time. And I look over, and there's another girl in the other lane, and her name is Sandy, which is my wife now. And so I literally switched lanes and did start talking to her, and we just sort of hit it off. But here's the thing, I was still broken, just like what you're talking about. And I had manipulated my way and lied my way into making her think I was somebody that I wasn't. And that's the premise of my book, I See Greatness in You, because right before we were about to get married, she had just graduated high school. She had only been out of high school for just a couple of months. She was just a kid. And I got arrested for the stupidest thing in the world. And that's the video that you saw. It's got a promo for the book. And basically, when I stood before the judge that night in my hometown of all places, Warrior, Alabama, ultimate shame, she's standing outside waiting on me, 18 years old. I think she'd only been 18 for not even a month. And so I realized that everything my father said about me was true. I stood there before that judge thinking everything he said about what I was going to become, he nailed it. I'm a loser. I'm never going to have anything. My one shot of a life, I manipulated and lied, and now it's over. I'm ruined. And so I mustered up enough strength, and I walked outside the courthouse, and I told Sandy, I said, listen, I want you to turn around. And I want you to walk away from me. I want you to keep the ring. And I want you to find somebody that you deserve, because it's not me. I know what I'm going to do to you. I know what I'm going to do to us. I'm going to destroy your life because I'm going to destroy my life. And your mother and dad have prayed for you to have a godly man, and I'm not that man. I am a fake. I'm a fraud. You know the truth now. Please, I beg you, leave. And that little 18-year-old girl grabbed my hand, and she looked into my eyes, and she said, Larry, I'm not leaving you. And I said, how could you stay with somebody that you found out this week that none of the things that you thought about me are even true? And she said, because when I look into your eyes, Larry, I see greatness in you. And when she said those 5 words, I said, what did you say? She said, Larry, I see greatness in you. And no one had ever said anything like that to me in my life. I had never thought it about myself. I never thought there could be a potential for it. She literally grabbed my hand and she said, let's go. Let's go. Larry, I still can't hardly tell it without getting emotional. That was 1988, y'all. She said, let's go. Let's go, baby. It's going to be all right. God's going to use me to help you see it. You don't see it, but I see it. Come on, let's go. And let me tell you, that's the power, men of God, having voices in your life that can reverse curses. Those 5 words reversed a curse over my life. And I broke before God. I ended up not just going to church to date a girl. I ran to the altars. I gave my heart to Jesus. With no desire for ministry whatsoever. We had never had a single discussion about ministry at all. We just loved each other. We got married in May of 1989. By August of 1989, we were youth pastors. And then a year and a half later, we were planting our first church. But I say all of that happened to me as a boy and as a man was reversed by the power of life and death that's in the tongue of someone that had impacted my life, and that was my wife. And that's why the book is called I See Greatness in You.
And that's powerful. It never ceases to amaze me and how we as men don't look to our wives as we should.
Yes.
There's, I've done everything. Well, I'm going to say everything to screw up my marriage, but like I've done everything to screw up my marriage. I ain't never cheated on my wife or anything like that. But like the last 14 years I've been absent. I mean, she went through cancer and basically went through it by herself. I was there, but mentally I wasn't there. I was mad at God. Why'd you give my wife cancer?
Yeah.
Because if you take her from me, then that leaves me with nothing. Like selfish. You know what I'm saying? Selfish. And while it hasn't been easy and she hasn't always liked me, she's never given up on me. You know what I mean? And I was at the point in October, I told God, I said, there's 2 options. This was shortly after Marcus, he and I had started talking about the men's conference they were doing. And, through that whole journey, it's funny to me because, I grew up Pentecostal in Church of God, and you got to go to the altar for everything, and you're going to lose your salvation and all this stuff. It didn't matter how much I rejected God. F you, God, I'm done. Here's the finger. Keep walking. Don't talk to me. I'd hear him say, okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
When you're done throwing your fit.
Yeah, yeah.
When you're throwing your temper tantrum, I'm here.
Yeah.
But I said, Lord, I'm done. I'm going to get through the holidays. The last birthday was my oldest son's in February. And if you haven't done something drastic in my life by March, I'm done. And I felt the Holy Spirit say, you want me? You want to find me? Sit down at the head of your table and be who I've called you to be.
Wow.
Sit down at the head of your table, open your Bible and read. And I thought, okay, this ain't going to work. So a couple nights later, I did it. I grabbed my Bible. I went and got my food. We eat in the kitchen. I've told this story on the show a lot, but we eat in the kitchen. And we have a dining room table. And
It's good.
I fixed my plate and fully expecting everybody to follow me, right? Nobody followed me. My wife said, "Where are you going?" So I'm going here to eat and read like the Lord told me to do. She said, "All right, have fun."
Mm.
And I sat there for probably 2 weeks by myself, ate dinner every night by myself. But I opened the book to Galatians chapter 5, and instead of focusing on the gifts like I've been taught through Church of God, and I fully believe in the gifts, don't get me wrong, but I learned about the Spirit.
Mm.
I learned about walking with Him. Now, I don't know what day in October it was. It's about middle of the, well, it was before the Tennessee game last year. It was 2 weeks before the Tennessee game, as a matter of fact. So we're coming up on a year, probably this week, that this transformation happened.
Wow.
I went from so depressed, ready to end my life, couldn't see, and man, Larry, I had a dream. I had multiple dreams. I saw a man standing in my yard cutting grass one day, and it was, there he was, and then he was gone. I can describe every detail of him. I know that was a demonic spirit. I know that was whatever that spirit was watching me, And I had a dream one night, and to sum the dream up, basically, I was having to do ministry, and it was never ending. And the Lord told me, give these people this giant egg, and they were emaciated, and give them the egg and say, I am the provision. And in the dream, I'm doing that, but I'm being chased by this gigantic, what I would call Hat Man, looked like the Undertaker, but a shadow. And I knew if he caught me, I was in trouble, right? Very, very, at the very least, was in trouble. I was probably dead. Well, he ended up catching me. And when I woke up, I felt the arms around me. I felt the hands on my shoulders, and I looked out the window and I just see this mist floating out. Within a week, that's when the Lord said to do that, and I did it. And I ain't had a bad day. Here. Like, not, well, let me back up. I've had some bad things happen, and I've shared this a lot. And within a week's time, I wrecked my truck, broke my computer, broke my phone. Everything I used to do this podcast with, I wrecked it in a week. I got bit by a dog, and Alabama lost to Tennessee, all within a week. And I can live, I can live multiple things like that that's happened in the year, throughout the year, and the whole time it's been,
right.
Something changed within inside of me, and I can't explain to people how to find that, right? But you talk about Christians being bound, 100%. You may make it to heaven, but you're bound right here so bad that you're not taking anybody with you.
Yeah.
And that's when this really birthed inside of me, and I know it was already birthed in Marcus, and Marcus has his own story he can share if he wants to, but it all comes back to my wife and how she did not give up. And I don't feel like we as men put as much emphasis on the importance of leading our wives and leading our children like we should. And that's my goal. Am I there? No, I'm not. But I'm actively every day taking a step, trying to do that. And do I fail? Sure, yeah, absolutely, I fail. But it's it never ceases to amaze me to run across men like you who are in the ministry, who struggled the same way I did, but also to find men that are not in the ministry, that are struggling and don't know how to get out of it. Don't know how to change. And it's definitely a full-on attack of the enemy. If he can take us out, get us out of the home, that's, you talking about, the absent father, whatever. Yeah, I mean, you can kill the family, right?
Oh yeah,
kill the family. You can take the future out. Anything you want to add to that?
Go ahead.
So I guess with that being said, what would your definition of a man be? Knowing how we live in society today, and what society has degraded men to, the buffoon for years, all the way to, we don't know whether we're men or not. We don't know what gender we are. We don't know all this garbage. What would your definition of a man be?
Well, my first response to that would be, man was created in the image of God, and there's things that God put into a man that are very specific for that man. One of the things that I always do, and my folks at my church will tell you, if you were to ask anybody that goes to Solid Rock, where's the one place that pastor preaches out of more than any place? They won't even need a second to think about it. No matter what I'm preaching on, no matter what the series is, whatever, I'm going to find a way to go back to the Garden of Eden. I always go back to the Garden of Eden. And I always go back really to Genesis 1:26. Let us make man in our image, our likeness. Let us give him dominion, and so forth. Well, here's an interesting thing that I don't know if you guys have ever thought about before. Did I lose y'all? You still there?
No,
Okay.
we're
Okay.
still,
All right.
laggy, but we're still here.
Okay. So I don't know if you ever thought about this. So I'm going to answer your question by going this way, because you were talking about the power of the wife. We all know the story of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil when Eve is having the conversation with the serpent. And I won't go too deep into it, but I will say this, that it's interesting to me how this whole dynamic of that story came about. There's just no way in the world that I believe that this was a random stop-by conversation. They had probably been having this conversation for a very, very long time. I mean, Adam lived to almost be 1,000 years old. And so it could have possibly been decades that they had been in the garden at that time. So drip, 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 people would start losing their identity. They start losing the command from God. Well, the interesting thing about this, and I want the listeners to fact check me on this, because when I say this, people don't know if they believe it. They have to go back and look in the Bible and fact check me. So I'm not scared. Go ahead and fact check me. When the serpent looks at Eve and says, now tell me again what God said about this tree. Eve says, the Lord said that we are not to eat of this tree, for if we eat of this tree, the day that we eat or touch this tree, touch or eat this tree, of the day that we eat of this fruit, we will surely die. And I preached for years and years and years that I knew that was when the devil knew he had her, because she had added to the word of God, because he never said you couldn't touch the tree. Never. He said you just can't eat from the tree. In fact, it even implies, he says that they are to tend the garden. So it implied that they were to touch the tree. They were to take care of it and prune it. They couldn't eat of it. So for years and years and years, I preached this. But get ready. Here we go. Here's the thing that hit me this year. That was actually last year when I first saw this, and it's in my new book that I just wrote, an entire chapter dedicated to it. No, I realized that when we are facing identity issues, an assault against masculinity, an assault against what a man is, an assault against what a woman is. I mean, we got a woman on the Supreme Court that when she was in her confirmation hearing, she was asked, can you tell me what a woman is? And she could not define what a woman is, because that's how messed up our world is when it comes to gender. I submit to you that the first door to sin that created the original sin was transgenderism. Because here's why I say that. When he said that to Eve, the Bible said that she ate of the fruit and turned and gave it to her husband, and he did eat. So it's very clear that's what scripture says. Go back and look at it. He was standing right behind her. She ate of the fruit. She turned and gave it to her husband, and her husband did eat. And they both knew that they were naked. So we all know that part of the story. But the interesting thing is, the reason the devil really knew that he had her, and the reason I say it was transgenderism, is because at that moment, Eve had taken on the role of a man and identified as a man, and Adam had taken on the role of a woman and identified as a woman. He became the weaker vessel. The thing that I want you to fact check me on is here's how he knew he had her. He said, now what did God say? And she said, he said that we could not eat of this tree nor touch this tree. From the day that we eat of this tree, we shall surely die. He knew. See, he knows the Bible better than we know the Bible. That's and right. He knows the word better than we know the word. Here's the thing that has shocked a lot of people. Eve did not exist when that statement was made. She had never even been created. She never heard God say that. She had no right to say that. That was supposed to be coming from the man. Mm-hmm. If you go back and look at it, it will say that the Bible says that Adam was named all the animals. He created him, named all the animals, and all of this. Go look at the sequence of it. And after he had named the animals, all this kind of stuff, we said, it is very good. Then he said to Adam, he said, Adam, I'm going to place you in this garden, and of every tree in the garden you can eat of it, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you can't eat of it. From the day that you eat of it, you will surely die. He gave that command to Adam only. Next command, He's naming the animals. Right after that, he says, and God said, it is not good for man to be alone. And he made man to lay down, and out of man, he brought the rib, and he brought woman. So Eve did not even exist when that command was given. So the man, to answer your question, the man lost his identity in God. The father figure, the voice, the masculine voice, he surrendered it at some point to his wife. He told her the story, and then he allowed her to take the leadership role. He became the weaker vessel, where he should have been theologically been fighting the devil face to face. He should have stood in front of his wife and said, you better back up, buddy. Don't you talk to my wife. You don't have permission to talk to my wife. I am the covering of her. I am the priest of our home. You have no right, serpent, to talk to my wife. But he had cowered. He had lost what it meant to be a man, and he submitted to his wife, and she was probably needing him to be the leader. But because he wouldn't, he was standing there being silent, she took that role. So I'm going to tell you something. The devil has never fought a new fight. We're not fighting new demons. This whole attack on identity, this whole attack on gender is nothing new. It was the very first thing that happened. Pride. Think about what the gay agenda is called. Pride. Pride, people said pride is the first sin. And I'm not debating that it wasn't the first sin. But the reality is this. It came out of, as a result of the man and woman swapping genders, and man losing his identity in who he is in God.
That's good. That's good. I think we've talked about that before, to an extent, probably not that, nowhere near that deep. Basically, had Adam done what he was supposed to do, that Eve did not hear that command.
Yeah.
You know,
No, she did not.
Hear it in the perspective that you put it is it makes total sense. And I say it all the time in our Sunday school class, there's nothing new. The things we're being attacked with, the legalism, there's a whole book dedicated to legalism in the New Testament called Hebrews, right? Let's focus on Jesus. Let's quit making these stupid laws,
Right.
But yet we keep falling into that same trap. And I heard a guy talking the other day, and probably catch some flack for this, but talking about the radical Muslim agenda and how they don't care about changing us. They want to change our kids. It's infiltrate the home and convert the children from Christianity to be Muslim. Well, it's the same attack of the enemy, right? It's infiltrate the home, get rid of the father, move the father out of the way, get him distracted, whatever. Then I can do whatever I want to with his children, and that's one thing where I thank God every day that through my struggles over the last 14 years, that he gave me a woman who said he's still the head of the home. Even though he's not stepping up and acting like the head, he's still the head. And my kids are going to go to church. They're going to know about Jesus, and they're going to see me love their father. Again, she didn't like me very much, but she loved me, And don't get me wrong now, the transition over this last year and I'm one of those that if I say no, my wife's like, okay, that's fine. She's always been that way. But it's very rare that I say no to her, just because she's smarter than me for the most part. You know what I'm saying? But she knows if I buck her on a decision that we need to stop, But I will say that the transition of me taking over that spiritual role that I should have kept over 13 years that I didn't. I started out with it, but I surrendered it to her. I wanted nothing to do with it. It's been hard to take that back. You know what I mean? And the thing that I've watched her do over 14 years, especially the last 5, is dive into her word deep, deep, to where before we would have a biblical discussion. If I said the Bible said this, she would say, okay. And now it's, well, hang on, let's go back and read that. You know what I mean? And it's a challenge for me, right? Because it's like, who are you to challenge me on the Bible, right? But it's amazing to me how God will put these women in our lives. And
Absolutely.
I don't fault Eve, right? I fault Adam.
Right.
Just like I said, he should have stepped up. I think what Eve thought she was doing was feeding her husband. You know,
Mhm.
who do we even know for sure whether Eve ever communed with God? You know, every time, he come into the garden that day and said, Adam, where
Yeah.
are you?
Yeah.
Not Eve.
Yeah.
Adam, you know.
Yeah. And he blamed the woman. Is that
Yeah.
woman you gave me?
100%.
And then she said it was a snake.
Yeah.
It's just
It's past the buck.
that's past the buck. Absolutely. And man, you're so right, bro. The power of a woman's voice in the heart of a man is the most powerful force next to God.
Yeah. It's the
And
rudder on the ship. It's
yeah,
the rudder on the ship. You know
yeah,
what I mean? We're steering the ship, right? We're in
yeah,
control of where it's
yeah,
going, but she's helping guide it. And if you are doing what you're supposed to do, she's gonna run that rudder like she should, you know. And we think so often that it's just a paycheck and protecting, you know, but it's so much deeper than that. And that's one thing we try to teach is if my wife and kids want to do nothing but sit around the house, ultimately it's my responsibility. I need to cut the grass. I need to clean. I need to cook. I need to bathe the kids. I need to teach them scripture because it is my family. But if I am doing what I'm supposed to do, she's going to want to do all of those things anyway. You
right,
know,
right.
my kids are going to do what I want them to do cheerfully, not
Yeah.
begrudgingly, you know, and it all comes back to us being the man who God called us to be and knowing and having that identity, you know. Ultimately, for me, I don't know that you can be a man without Christ in your life.
Yeah.
Maybe you can be a good person, and maybe you can teach your children right and teach them to be good moral people. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I think it comes back to having that relationship with Christ because Cade said it last week on the show. You can be the best father, the best man in the world, but if you've set your kids up for failure stepping into eternity, you have failed as a man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, great.
And ultimately that's where it goes. So
Let me touch on something.
Go ahead.
You just mentioned the word again, but a while ago, Brother Larry, you said identity. Not to lessen anything about a woman or the role of a woman, but that really spoke to me a while ago. We actually did a study on it's a book Rick Burgess did on how to be a man.
Mhm.
One of those topics was identity. We went over that, and just knowing who you are in Christ is one of the main points that I got in it. That's your identity. That's who you are right there. This day and age, and I guess it's maybe just society has broken men down that way, or maybe they just haven't had role models in their life to show them that. But I think just like submissive men miss their identity, miss that masculinity, miss that role of a man, and they're losing their identity in that. They don't. I mean, do you agree with that?
100%. Absolutely. And that's, to me, always been the fight. The fight has always been if the enemy can cause you to lose your identity, then the doors are open for everything. I mean, it's just open season on you, because this is something I've said for years. The most powerful force in this world is the Holy Spirit. The second most powerful force in this world is a man or woman who know who they are in God.
Mm-hmm.
And when you know who you are in God, not just know what a man is, not just know what a woman is, and masculine and feminine, know who you are in God, then you understand that you are created in the image of God. One of the things I talk about is called the DNA of greatness. And the reason in the book, I say, everybody don't have a Sandy. So I wrote the book to be your Sandy, meaning somebody needs to say this to you. That if nobody else has ever said this, I want to say, I see greatness in you. Why? How can I see greatness in somebody that I don't even know? How can I write it in a book and you read it in a book and you never meet me and my words be as powerful to you as my wife's word to me? It's because I can say it with confidence, because the DNA of greatness is within every human being, because we were created in the image of God, and God is the greatness. So when I see greatness in you, I'm not meaning your personal greatness, because if you pursue your own greatness on your own without God, you become successful, and successful is not to the level of the DNA of greatness from God. You can be successful in the world, but you can't be a true kingdom success without the DNA of greatness within you, and that comes from God. So you're absolutely right. I firmly believe that from the garden to now, and will be to the end of time, the ultimate fight is on identity. And that's why you have identity politics. That's why you have the whole gender dysphoria and all these kind of things. You got all these young people that are confused about who they are. Because when you're confused about who you are, if you feel like God made a mistake, you were born in the wrong body, or you know, you've got some kind of weird fetish or whatever, and you feel like that's nobody understands you, and that's your identity, the enemy's going to feed that, because that's going to pull you further and further away from your identity in God. And so I think that's one of the main fights for the men, is to not be lords over their wives and kids, but to lead with a masculine, sort of like an alpha male type thing. A lot of women nowadays are like, you know, I'm tired of sissy man. I want a real man. Where the real men at? And you know, and across the board, I mean, testosterone is down. There's an attack against everything on men. They're putting stuff in our food. They're putting stuff in our water. They're putting stuff in our air. They're doing all kinds of things to attack men. So I mean, how many times you watch commercials? Hear a commercial and it's about low T or some, you know, some kind of dysfunction or something. It's all, it's number one, it's seed being planted to cause you to think that everybody's that way. And number two, a lot of people are that way. It's because they are really legitimately, our bodies are being attacked, which then, of course, if a man cannot be everything physically that a man is supposed to be, then it affects his identity. He starts feeling like he's a loser. He starts feeling like, and this is all a part of the plan of the enemy to demasculinize, if that's even a word, of a man. And it's physical, it's emotional, and it's spiritual. And it's an attack against the manhood and the identity of a man.
I want to say this to anybody who's listening, especially women. We're not talking about men ruling and reigning
No,
like you're their property.
Absolutely.
And we're not talking about men walking around taking advantage of women or anybody like that. We're talking about stepping up and doing what men should do, opening the car door, protecting people, providing, leading, those things. And women, when we talk about being submissive, we're not talking about you're scared of your husband.
Right.
We're talking about you love your husband.
Yeah.
You know, you are there for your husband. And it if it's done correctly, you never have a question of who's leading.
Right.
You never have a question of who's following. I used to work with a guy that made a statement one time. He was a big muscle bound guy, and he's a good dude, but you know, when I'm out in public, my kids walk behind me. I said, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. When I'm out in public, my wife is to my right and my kids are typically in front of me or to the right of her. So I know where everybody's at.
Absolutely.
Nobody needs to walk behind me.
Right.
I'm going to follow up and make sure that everybody's where they're supposed to be.
Yes.
And I think Uncle
Good.
Rick did that. I mean, growing up, you know, he taught us when we were in a restaurant, he would always know where the exit was. I'm sure he told you this, but Marcus's dad, but he told me always know where the exit is and always watch the entrance. You know, pay attention, watch people. And I do that, you know, and I try to tell my kids the same thing.
Don't sit with your back to the door.
You know, my role is to not make my kids fear me. My role is to make my kids trust me. That way, when I say get down, they get down. You know,
Yes.
run, they run. They're not saying, well, why are we running?
Yeah.
You know, they just, hey, dad's running, we need to follow, you know.
Right.
And so that's the goal. Is we're not talking about ruling and reigning. We're talking about working together. And it's I tell people all the time, marriage is 100%. You give 100, you take 100. It's not 50-50. I mean, you're giving and taking at the same time, but if you're doing it correctly, it can be done in a beautiful dance, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And I don't think we're taught that enough. I know I wasn't. I mean, my mother, you know, married and divorced and things like that. It's not that she didn't try to teach us. I mean, she instilled in us, find a good mate and find somebody who loves you and find somebody who cares about you. My mother, you know, I played with Barbie dolls as a kid, whatever, with my sister and my cousins, but it was never one of those things of, her pushing that on me because she was female, you know?
Sure.
And so, I can't really cook, but I choose not to cook. But you know, I knew how to wash clothes and I knew how to do all those things. I may not have known how to change the oil in the car. But I had men in my life that could show me that as well. And she would place men in my life. So it wasn't like she was trying to, just push everything a woman's role is off on me, you know?
Yeah.
But I can say not having a father in my life and having an abusive stepdad, it made me trust men less.
Of course.
It made me not have as much, even as employers, you know, even
Well,
God,
it also made you question yourself
yeah,
as a man
100%.
because you're like, you know, how can I be a father when I never saw a father? I mean,
Absolutely.
you know, and that's again the role here of the devil. It is like the ultimate goal is to cause the man and the woman too, but we're talking about men right now, to cause the man to not understand who he really is in God, so therefore he disqualifies himself.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more defeated of a man than a man that feels like he has failed his wife, he has failed his kids, and he doesn't know what a husband looks like. He doesn't know what a father is, and he takes it out on God. And quite frankly, a lot of people that had father issues, which is the majority of people, their first image of God the Father is shaped through their image of their own father. So it's like, you know, what quit talking to me about a father. I don't want to hear about our Father which art in heaven. You know, there's people don't even want to pray that prayer because it's like, I don't want a father. That's why they so quickly embrace Mother Earth. So many people, you know, want to call God Mother and not Father because there's so many people with father issues.
I agree. I agree 100%. Let's shift gears a little bit. I know this is what we're here for, but I want to talk a little bit about your show. How did you come? How was the big picture birth?
Okay, the big picture. The best way to find the big picture is really to go to LarryRagland.com. So if you want to know more about the big picture, go to LarryRagland.com. But the big picture was birthed, as was said on the back porch. You know, when God told me, said, you're going to start a YouTube channel. You're going to call it the big picture. It was all just immediate down there. You're going to call it the big picture because you're going to show the world that there's more going on really than what any of their senses can reveal to them. That the real world is nothing that you can see, feel, or hear. It's the spirit realm. And there is things going on in the spirit realm that if you don't help people understand this, and this was early on in the game, had no idea where the channel would end up going, which is coming up on 3 years now, but it would eventually go into understanding the days of Noah when Jesus said in Matthew 24, as in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the days of the coming of the Son of Man, the days before the.
All right. So before we were so rudely interrupted by crappy internet, I'm telling you, man, we can go a whole show but if we ever get into the spiritual stuff,
Exactly.
And people think I'm crazy, but like it
No.
really does. So you were talking about how the big picture started. You said it was on the back porch. The Lord gave you, you know, the name of the podcast, and it was ultimately about spiritual things, and then that's where we kind of lost you.
Okay. Yeah, it's called The Big Picture because God showed me, he said, you're going to show the world, you're going to start a channel, you're going to show the world that there's more going on than what any of your senses can reveal to you. It's the real world. This is not the real world. The real world is the spirit realm, and it's the eternal, and it's what's affecting and manipulating everything around you. And as in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the days of the coming of the Son of Man. And when you start studying the conditions that were around in the days of Noah, and you look at where we're at right now, they are certainly parallel, and they're coming to a head. So many Christians are completely oblivious. So many Christians are completely asleep, and they're blind to what's going on. But there is so much going on that you cannot see with your natural eyes. So I always use the example when Elisha was in the tent and his assistant came to him and said, we're surrounded. The Syrian army is here, and there are chariots everywhere, and there's soldiers everywhere. They've come to get you, and we're outnumbered. We're going to die today. And the prophet said, Lord, open his eyes. And he goes back out, and the scales fall from his eyes, and he sees the entire mountains and the valleys are full of angels in chariots of fire, riding horses that are on fire. And so there was more for them than were against him. So it was because the spirit realm had to be revealed. So the big picture is the spirit realm. The big picture is there's nothing new under the sun, but it's been in hiding. And when the great falling away that's prophesied that would happen happens, and it is happening, then the church that is a restraining force, little by little by little, we're losing our authority, losing our identity, and we're opening the door back up to dormant spirits and principalities that have been in hiding. But they're going to have one last hurrah, but so is the church. And the title of my next book that's coming out after sometime around Easter of next year with Destiny Image is called The Final Flood. And it's based on that. And it's the final flood of evil and glory. And there's going to be a fight of evil and glory, because you've got the great falling away, and then you've got the Joel chapter 2 outpouring upon all flesh. And these are going to be the two floods that are going to happen at the same time. And of course, the glory flood is going to win. But it's going to be a smaller number. The remnant's getting smaller and smaller, but it's getting more powerful by the day.
So let me ask you this. So that's kind of how I started down the podcasting plane. It's how I found Tony with the confessionals. I actually found him through Wes Germer, Sasquatch Chronicles, just because of my intrigue in this topic. I don't know why. I tell people all the time, I know the Lord led me to this for a reason. But I was always, I would guess, ashamed of what people would think because of my opinion on things. You know, I have my own opinion on what aliens are, what Bigfoot is. I think they're spiritual beings coming in and out of this realm. I don't think Bigfoot is actually a lost ape. You know what I mean? I think
me too.
Same thing with aliens. I think we kind of agree on that. But I noticed as I was diving down that rabbit hole was really when some of the darkest days came upon me.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a while to realize it. I come to the realization that I was seeking it because I thought it was cool and I wanted to know, instead of searching for the truth behind what it was. Mm-hmm. And during all of that, faced a lot of spiritual attacks. Have you you feel like you have been? I know your church burned recently. Talk about both your mother-in-law and your mother both passing within months of each other, and maybe that's just part of old age and timing. But have you seen spiritual attacks just come your way, even more so than what you would think it would be just being a pastor?
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%. That it's the devil don't mess with people that ain't messing with him. And when you start exposing things, he comes after you. And one of the things I say all the time too is every Christian's known in heaven, but not every Christian is known in hell. And the ones that are known in hell are the ones that are shaking up hell. And when you're known in hell, you better be prepared, because they're coming for you. But there's a lot of Christians, the majority of Christians, nobody in hell knows their name. Right. They're just, because they're not doing anything against the kingdom of darkness. Thankfully, they're known in heaven. Thankfully, they're going to heaven. But God has called us to occupy. He's called us to lead with dominion while we're here. Mm-hmm. So, when you start exposing those devils, they're not happy about it. They're not happy at all about it, because they love being able to sit on a church pew and enjoy the church service. They don't want to be exposed. So, I've got a video. I don't want to go detail in it right now, but I know we don't have time. But if anybody goes to my YouTube channel, you can find it. It was literally one of the biggest shows. Ended up being one of the most viewed shows we've ever done. And this was just recently. This was just within a few months ago. For the first time in my life, I was actually attacked by a demon that I could see, that got into bed with me and literally touched me. And it was the spirit of Lilith. I don't know if you know about Lilith.
Yeah, I've heard you talk about this, but I'm familiar with Lilith.
Yeah, and I go in detail on that show about what happened to me and how it overpowered me, even though I ended up, in a sense, even though the Holy Spirit took over and was able to get victory in that situation, it showed me, hey, look, you got to understand, you're moving into dealing with some major principalities here, and you got to make sure that you're covered, not just in your own personal prayer life, but that you've got people covering you, praying for you, lifting you up. You need prayer warriors, intercession going on your behalf all the time, because you're fighting some things that a lot of people are not fighting, and you're exposing them, and they're going to come for you. And she came for me, and it was totally unexpected. There was no open doors. I had not been doing anything. I had not been looking at anything. There was nothing. It was blindside. It came from a dream. The dream went into real life. And for the first time in my life, I've cast many devils out. I mean, I've seen people levitate in front of me in church services. I've been bit. I've had snakes turn them into snakes and grab me and wrap around my leg like a snake. I mean, I've seen all these kind of things over the years, but I've never seen a demon manifest in the natural realm and physically touch me until just a few months ago while I was laying in my bed. and I experienced what's called sleep paralysis.
Mhm.
I was completely paralyzed. My mouth was completely paralyzed. My voice box was paralyzed. I couldn't say anything. My wife was asleep in the living room. I was asleep in the bed by myself. And it was the power of the Holy Spirit that came up out of me, and I could just literally feel fire coming up out of my belly. And the Holy Spirit spoke through me and said what needed to be said to remove her from that room. And it was an eye-opening experience to me. It shocked me, and it's still shocking when I think about it. To this day, I've never experienced anything before or after, but that was a preview to me. So I knew that, okay, you're on another level of spiritual warfare now. I mean, you're exposing some things. And when I talked to my pastor about it, that's what he told me. He said, look, I don't even need to pray about this. I know immediately what this is. He said, this spirit was sent for you because your voice is getting larger. You're having influence more in people's lives around the world, and you're exposing things that have been hidden for so long. And just know that God's got you, but be prepared for what's coming.
Well, that's one thing I think about. We're talking about Tony Merkel. He's had some battles. He's had some sickness himself. It's like every time he goes out to do any kind of investigation or anything like that, he gets sick. Now his wife with cancer. But Tony dives into some things that are definitely 100% way more than just surface level for Christians.
I pray for Tony all the time, and I'm sort of like a spiritual father to him. I am a spiritual father to him. He's told me that. So we talk all the time, and he understands. At first, he didn't really know this because he was just like you were. He was just interested in this topic. But when he began to go into this as the confession was, he began to realize, okay, I'm opening doors here. So I got to have covering. So he's got some very key people that are covering him. But you are right; they are going through a lot of difficult times right now.
Well, and that's one thing that I noticed just in that realm anyway. Any Facebook group you get in that talks about that, and every Christian in the world's got a podcast on Bigfoot now, right?
Yeah.
But then there's all this turmoil and this strife, and I just had to leave the groups because it's like none of you realize what's going on. You're seeking popularity. You're not searching for the truth behind it, and the enemy knows that, and he's just attacking you because you're seeking him. In so many ways.
Now, I'll let you know, I got to jump off in just a few minutes, but before I do, I want to just comment on that right there directly, because I always think about the sons of Sceva. They tried to cast the devil out. They thought, okay, we're going to jump on this Bigfoot wagon. Basically, this is the same equivalent here. We've seen Paul do this. We've seen these other guys do this. So we're going to just mimic this. We're going to try to get some new clicks. We're going to try to get some views and some subscribers. So we're going to talk about Bigfoot, and we're going to deal with this, and we're going to talk about Lilith, or we're going to talk about Jezebel, and we're going to talk about all this kind of stuff because make a cool thumbnail, and I'm going to grow me a channel. I'm going to get me influence. So I'm telling you to come out the way Paul did. Come out now. I'm going to say everything that Paul said, and now you got to do for me what happened for Paul. And that devil said, Jesus we know, and Paul we know, but who are you? Yeah. And that devil jumped out and skinned him butt naked, beat him up, and ran him out in the street, and took over there and just shut him down. And I think that's what you're talking about, and that's what we're getting into. Is a lot of people trying to just get into something, but they don't know what they're getting into.
And that's what I was going to say. What would your advice be to everybody out there that thinks, and even podcasting in general, any topic you talk about in the Christian realm, and you start talking about Christ, you're going to be fought. But when you go down the avenue you've gone down, or Tony, or some of these other guys, that they're legit, and they're legit spiritual warfare people. Like I've watched Tony's life change. Well, I've listened to Tony's life change, his spiritual life change, and the way he talks and thinks. And it's not something that you should do. You should just do.
He lost a lot of viewers too when he made that turn, but now he's grown back even more.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people left him when he made the conscious decision is, hey, I'm no longer just going to tip my toe in spiritual warfare. I'm going to bring people in, and we're going to deal with the spiritual side of it on every topic, period. Yeah. You come in here, you're going to hear about Jesus.
That's right.
And a lot of people start blowing him up. Hey, can you talk about something? I used to love this show before you start talking so much about Jesus. Well, he don't care. He don't care. He's just at a place now. But my advice is this. One of the things that Sandy and I learned years ago, sounds simple, but it's not simple, and you got to be disciplined about it, is learning the power of a cleansing prayer. and it is very, very real. So when you're dealing with something, a lot of times we'll do our Monday night show. And when we do our Monday night live show together, me and her, we're sitting right here with 2 hours of just bad news after bad news, just trying to not be Debbie Downer, but just trying to expose to everybody what's going on in the world. And we try to do it, be funny about it, try to be lighthearted about it and all this. But a lot of times we'll get off the program and we'll just look at each other and we'll be like, okay, we got to do a cleansing prayer right now, because we understand those spirits are going to get on us. It's going to affect our marriage. So we rebuke those. We take authority over those devils, and we cleanse those off of us in the name of Jesus. I would say that if you're thinking about doing a podcast, and this is my advice to you guys as well, always stay connected to your pastors. Always make sure you got a covering. Always make sure that you're connected to other men. The day that you think you got this and you don't need to talk to anybody else or confess any kind of struggles, any kind of thoughts you're going through, is the day you're going to probably end up messing up. Because like I told my kids their whole life, I was like, you are not as strong as you think you are. I don't care what you think. Well, I'm going to be all right, Dad. We're just going to watch a movie. No. You're not sitting in that house base with your boyfriend, and ain't nobody sitting next to you, because I don't care how much you quote scripture to me, you're not as strong as you think you are.
That's right.
And so I would say that to anybody listening and watching right now, don't get so full of yourself that you think you're so high and mighty and so spiritually powerful that you got this. You ain't got this without God. And remember, it was God that said it's not good for man to be alone. And he wasn't just talking about a wife. He's talking about relationships. He's talking about accountability. The one thing men have the hardest thing to accept, that they need more than anything, is relationships and accountability.
Accountability. I agree. Well, brother, I know you got to get out of here, and I think that's a good place to end it. Maybe we can have you back on and talk a little deeper about the show and what you do. It's definitely interesting. And that would be my advice for anybody in just ministry in general. I mean, whether you're doing a podcast or a TikTok channel, or you're going to preach the gospel, don't think, well, I'm Apostle so-and-so, I can do this. No, you better be ready, because you're going to be attacked. And if you're about the Father's business, you can expect it. I mean, Jesus was attacked for the 3 years of his ministry nonstop.
Yes.
So why would we think we're not going to be any different? You know?
Absolutely.
So, well, anything you want to shout out? I know you said LarryRagland.com.
Yeah.
I mean, you pretty much find everything you need there as far as
everything's there. And look, I always tell people, tell them on my show, I'll tell them on your program as well. We always have a free gift there. We got a download ebook. It's called The Bernie Generation. You go there, click, get your free gift. It's a PDF. You can download it. And I try to rotate that about every month, have a free ebook there to equip people. There's no obligation, just your name and your email. Join our email list called the Noah Generation, and just trying to equip people for what is coming. But everything's there at LarryRagland.com. But guys, thank you so much for having me on your program. I really appreciate it. I've enjoyed it.
And one last thing, when do you think your church is going to be ready to be back open? I know you guys are still
that's literally the $1 million question, in the sense that there's no way of knowing right now. They're still saying 6 to 9 months.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy. But we have such a peace about it. We got a great temporary building. We're just letting the insurance company do their thing, and we're putting it in God's hands, and God is moving. I just made a decision, I was like, okay, I'm not going to worry about this. I'm just going to put it in their hands, and I'm going to keep abreast of it. But I got kingdom business to do. I'm not going to, because the church ain't about a building. But thank you for asking. And on LarryRagland.com, you can look there, and you can go on the donate page, not to ask for money, but I'm just saying, you scroll down at the bottom of the donate page. There's a video down there where it tells a little bit more about the church fire and all that, and gives you a little history of how we got to where we're at. So if people are interested, it's there on my website as well.
Gotcha. Well, guys, listen, if you're watching this and you're looking for a home church, Solid Rock Church, look it up. Go to LarryRagland.com. I'm sure you can find the location of where they're at now. I have never met Larry personally in person, but we know several people that know each other, and they all speak highly of him. Well, and I've listened to him preach, and man, if you want some good word, but he's fire. You can bring it. You better be ready. You better be ready. So
I appreciate it, guys. I thank you so much, and it's an honor to be here.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you coming out. And guys, listen, remember this. We say this each and every episode. Romans 8:31 says, if God be for you, who can be against you? And if that's the case, we got this day whooped, right? So go out today, crush today, keep God first, do what you do, and remember this, Jesus loves you. So do we. And you guys keep your heads up, and we'll see you next time. You'll have a good one.